The Big Ten has released the 2024, 25, 26, 27, and 28 schedules. We're going to walk you through what the future Michigan football schedules look like. Let's start with 2024. You start off the season with 3 out-of-conference games with the last few years. Nothing new here, but it's not as easy as it has. And guys, this 2024 schedule, this thing is a doozy. So we're going to look at it here. Fresno State, then Texas, then Arkansas State. That's like the August 31st, September 7th, it was September 21st, etc. But then you've got 8 home games for the third straight season here. Minnesota, Northwestern, Michigan State, and a big change from what things were supposed to be in the past before Oregon and Washington were added to the schedule. Michigan will have USC and Oregon, the new Pac-12 teams, at home next season. So a home slate of Texas, Michigan State, USC, and Oregon. That is quite the home doozy, but it doesn't get any easier. Because on the road, you got Illinois, Indiana, okay, and these aren't in any particular order. Obviously, the Ohio State game will be the end of the year. But Washington and Ohio State, so you've got Oregon, you've got Washington, you've got Texas, you've got USC, you've got Ohio State. I mean, this 2024 schedule, folks, this is the murderer's row. I could make an argument. I'm not sure how good all these teams will be next year, but just from brand name and where they are right now, you got Oregon, right? Top 10 in the country. USC, top 10 in the country. Texas is number 3 right now. Ohio State is ranked in the top 10 as well. Washington is ranked in the top 10. This is an absolute murderer's row schedule. We'll jump more into it and tell you about 25, 26, 27, and 28 here in a moment. But did also want to talk about another top story of the day. Over the last 24 to 36 hours, Joel Klatt and some Michigan media, and I put the word out and got some information back, is that there is a ton of buzz around the program that Jim Harbaugh himself has been pushing Santa Ono, Michigan president, and of course, Warde Manuel, to get a finally get this contract done. Harbaugh, took the big pay cut after 2020, then restructured a little bit, but he's looked at the NFL the last 2 seasons. Sounds like Harbaugh is the one pushing this, and he is not willing or interested in making a push towards the NFL for a third straight season after this one. We'll give you more details about that at the end of today's show. It is the Michigan Football Report by Chat Sports. We're going to go through all the next 5 years of schedules coming up right now. And I'm your host, James Yoder. The Big Ten has put out 5 years of schedules. We teased you on this on Tuesday, right? We said this is probably coming around, and most of the stuff that was out there turned out to be correct. Michigan, less of an emphasis on like UCLA, especially going into next year. Don't have them. And then Penn State did get deprioritized from Michigan's schedule. We'll tell you about that here in a second. But before we jump into all the scheduling details, make sure you subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/Michigan TV. We've got news, rumors, breaking schedule news like this, and we've got our game day show. Some live shows during game days, but if not, we'll do the post-game show after every Michigan football game. Hit that subscribe button right now. Make sure you tell your friends about it too, youtube.com/Michigan TV. Take another look at the 2024 Michigan football schedule. Just go through game by game. Fresno State, all right, what do you know about them? We'll see how the things shake out there. Then you got Texas. Second game of the year, assuming Jim Harbaugh, if he's Michigan's coach still, will be on the sideline. Took the suspension this year, in a lot of ways, I think, to make sure he's there for that Texas game next year. Could be a matchup of Arch Manning, if Quinn Ewers goes pro at Texas, Arch Manning, and who? Who's going to be the Michigan quarterback next year? J.J. McCarthy or somebody else? Might even be someone on the roster right now. You got Arkansas State there rounding out the out-of-conference schedule. Then things, these games are not in order. The Big Ten didn't get release dates today, but Minnesota, that's your 4th game of the year. Then, of course, after Minnesota, you've got Northwestern. So, all right, 5 games, not too tough, right? But then it starts to get pretty tough here. Michigan State as the 6th home game, as Michigan will have 8 home games again next year. USC, the USC Trojans, going to bring, no matter who the quarterback is, likely won't be Caleb Williams. They'll bring a high-powered offense with Lincoln Riley. And then Oregon. I hope they, shake that schedule up a little bit so Michigan just doesn't have like 3 or 4 of these games, Michigan State, USC, Oregon, all right in a row. But you got 4 road games as well. Couple easy ones Michigan should win no matter who the quarterback is next year, even who the head coach is. Illinois and Indiana. But you've got 2 doozies of a road game here with Washington, right? Michigan was supposed to make a return trip to Washington in 2028. to make up for the 2020 game. But now that they're in the same conference, that game is not viable anymore. So Washington will host Michigan in 2024. Then you got Ohio State to end the season. So, again, I'm not sure if this is the toughest schedule in college football history because we don't know what these teams will look like next year. But if this schedule was this year, this would be absurd. This would be absolutely crazy, right? Oregon, USC, Texas. That's 3 of the top 8-9 teams in the country all at home, plus Michigan State, and then Ohio State and Washington themselves. That's 5 of the top 9-10 teams in the country that are in their schedules right now are on next year's Michigan football schedule. How about Ohio State, though? They kind of got a cupcake schedule. They've got a 2024 road game at Oregon, but they don't have USC, UCLA, or Washington on their schedule next year. What's the deal there? So Michigan has to have 3 of those teams, but Ohio State only has 1? What? I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So Ohio State getting, just like they did in 2020 where they didn't qualify for the Big Ten championship game, only played about 4 or 5 games. Big Ten let them in anyways. Looks like the Big Ten are breaking the rules to make Ohio State have an easier run of it because they can't beat Michigan anymore. They don't want them to lose to other teams like USC, UCLA, or Washington coming up in 2024. Give me a one-word reaction to Michigan's 2024 schedule. Mine, difficult. That's my one-word reaction. It is difficult. Let me know what yours is down in the comments. And just give me your general thoughts on this Michigan football schedule, but make sure you include a one-word reaction to what I'm calling a difficult Michigan football schedule. Turn the page to 2025. Starting off with the big boys there. Ohio State will be a home game. And look, Michigan's going to go from having 8 home games, 2021, 2022, 2023. In 2025, 2 years from now, Michigan's going to have 6 road games and only 6 home games. I don't think it's happened maybe ever. It's been a long, long time, and Michigan's not even at least had 7 home games in one season. So Ohio State, Purdue. Then you've got the return trip, Washington, coming to the Big House. Michigan beat them in the 2021 season. I was trying to think. It was 2020, 21. It was 2021 at the Big House. Then you got Wisconsin. And then the 2 out-of-conference games are New Mexico and Central Michigan, the 2 out-of-conference home games, right? So 6 home games, Ohio State, Purdue, Washington, Wisconsin, New Mexico, and Central Michigan. So decent home slate there. Some 3 kind of marquee-ish opponents right there. How about the road? Michigan's got to go out on the road in 2025, out to Oklahoma the second week of the year. That's going to be a tough one. Then you got to head out to Maryland. You're on the road at Michigan State. Michigan also has to take a road trip, Oklahoma, Maryland, Michigan State, to Nebraska. All right? Just like they did a couple days ago here. So be out on the road Nebraska twice in a 3-season stretch, 23 and then 25. Northwestern, and then USC. I mean, that's not as bad as the home schedule maybe in 2024, but still have to make road trips to Oklahoma and USC, not to mention Michigan State, not to mention Nebraska. Hell, Maryland, Northwestern most years aren't slouches either. So that is a brutal 6-game road schedule for Michigan in 2025. Let's talk about the Big Ten, what they put out in their press release, why they're putting these games in front of certain teams. They're calling it the Flex Protect 18 model, right, in Roman numerals, XVII, and no divisions in 2024. We already knew that, but they're obviously sticking with it, not going with any kind of pod system or anything like that, even though you're going to 18 teams. Teams will play every conference opponent at least twice, a home and away, every 5 years going forward, right? And this is assuming this continues after the 28-28 schedule, but this is what they're putting forward now, and kind of saying that this is what we're going to stick to long term. Michigan has 2 protected annual games. So they'll play Ohio State and Michigan State every single year, no matter what. And one other note on this one, if you're not a protected team, you have to play 2 times, home and away, but you can only play a max of 3 teams. So other than Michigan State and Ohio State, Michigan won't play any other Big Ten more than 3 times from 2024 through 2028. Let's take a look at those Big Ten protected rivalries. Michigan, Ohio State. Michigan, Michigan State. Then you got Washington, Oregon. Okay, so you got 2 protected rivalries from the new Pac-12 teams coming over, USC, UCLA. But how about this one, Maryland, Rutgers? That's a protected rivalry? All right. Wisconsin, Minnesota, makes some sense. Switch it over to the rest of them. There's 12 of them. Illinois, Northwestern. Illinois, Purdue. Indiana, Purdue. So Purdue's got 2 there. How about Iowa with 3 protected? So Penn State doesn't have a single protected rivalry, but Illinois' got 2. Purdue's got 2. Hell, Iowa has 3. Wisconsin has a couple. Minnesota has a couple. kind of wild. Penn State has none, not even Ohio State. So Ohio State just has the one against Michigan. But even with Michigan having two protected rivalries, and Ohio State only having one, somehow Michigan's facing all the new Pac-12 teams coming over more often over the next 5 years. I'll tell you about that here in a second. Than Ohio State will, which I think is just media bias against Michigan once again. In a second, we're going to tell you guys about the 2026, 27, and 2028 schedules and more on those Jim Harbaugh rumors that I told you about, his contract at the top of the show. But I did want to tell you about my new favorite thing, and that is Prize Picks. Folks, Prize Picks is the ultimate daily fantasy sports platform that takes your passion for sports to the next level. I've been winning. I'm on a one-game winning streak with Prize Picks. The college picks for this week are out, and here's what I'm going with. I'm going with the teams I know. I follow Michigan. I keep a close eye on Ohio State. So I am saying J.J. McCarthy, he is getting more than the 18 yards, it says Jack, 218.5 yards. I'm going more than that against Minnesota. Kyle McCord, 282.5, right? But they're playing Maryland. Should be an offensive shootout. That one's at home. I'm going more for him. And then the Donovan Edwards, I think he's going to get 50-plus yards, so more than 49.5 yards. Put $5 in this. This is how cheap it is. Pick those three things, $5, 5x my money. I can go up to 6 players and get 25x return if I get them right. But I was feeling pretty comfortable about those 3 picks. So I stuck with 3, put 5 on it, win 25. Real money. Prize Picks, what sets it apart? The simplicity and flexibility of the game. You're not worrying about complex lineups each week, and you're not competing against expert players. Get a $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com/CLNS. That is prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use code CLNS when you make your first deposit. Put up to $100 in there, and Prize Picks will match you with another 100 of your own. Get going. It is the easiest way to play daily fantasy, and I've been absolutely loving it the past month or so that I have been a playing member on Prize Picks. As the Big Ten releases their 2024, 5, 6, 7, and 8 schedules just moments ago, we're telling you about what Michigan has coming up in the next 5 seasons. How about 2026? Let's take a look at that. Home games against Oklahoma. All right, so the return, the home and home. So it's kind of interesting how it ends up shaking out. You got Texas, Oklahoma, Texas. Home, away, right? Over the years with Texas on the book end of it, Oklahoma smattered in the middle there, 25 and 26. You got Indiana at home in 2026, Iowa, Michigan State, Penn State making a return. I'll tell you about them in a second. And then you got UCLA. Western Michigan is on the schedule in 2026. And then UTEP. Now, that Western Michigan UTEP matchups will be more towards the beginning of the year, but we kind of want to bring these games out in a little bit of more order of importance, having Oklahoma there at the front. So 3 out-of-conference games, 5 Big Ten home games, 8 home games again in the 2026 schedule after only having 6 in 2025. Road games in 2026. You're going on the road at Minnesota, just like Michigan will this Saturday. On the road at Ohio State will be the last Saturday of the year. Also have a road trip against Oregon in 2026. Not to mention Rutgers as the 4th opponent. So Michigan's got to go on the road against Ohio State and Washington in 2024. 2026, the next time they have Ohio State on the road, they have got to head out west to take on Oregon. Take a look at the 2027 schedule now for these Wolverines. Only 4 games on the schedule right now at home. Only 4 now, because with 9 conference games, you're going to have 5 conference games at home, 4 away one year, and then you're going to flip-flop. You're going to have 4 conference games at home, 5 away the next year. So 2027, Michigan has not announced any home opponents for the out-of-conference schedule. They only have 1 away in 2027. That's Texas. So as of right now, only 4 home games on the schedule. Illinois, Ohio State, of course, and then Oregon as well, and Rutgers. That is your home schedule in 2027. As of now, I expect Michigan to have 2 more lower-level opponents at home, so you'll probably finish up with, just like in 2025, 6 home games and 6 road games. 2027, you've got road games against Texas. Then you've got Indiana. You've also got Iowa on the road in 2027. 6 road games that year. In addition to Texas, Indiana, Iowa, you got Michigan State. Okay? Then you got, for the Wolverines, Penn State back on the schedule, and UCLA. That's a doozy of a schedule right there. That is a doozy of a road schedule in 2027. Texas, Michigan State, Penn State, and UCLA, and only 4 home games scheduled thus far. Let's round it out with the 2028 schedule. Michigan has Maryland at home. So 5 home games in the Big Ten in 2028. No out-of-conference opponents have been announced yet, so I would expect that Michigan will have 7 or 8 home games when all is said and done, and they name their 2028 out-of-conference opponents. Maryland, Michigan State, Nebraska, Northwestern, and then USC, the USC Trojans, headed to Ann Arbor in 2028. Road games in 2028, you got 4 of them in the schedule in conference right now. At Ohio State, at Purdue, you got at Washington, and then you once again have Wisconsin on the road. So, gosh, some of these road schedules are just brutal. I mean, they are really tough schedules. Of note here, over this 5-year period, Michigan's going to play Oregon 3 times. They're going to play USC 3 times, Washington 3 times, Northwestern 3 times, Indiana 3 times. So those teams, Oregon, USC, Washington, Northwestern, and Indiana, all 3 times. Will play Michigan State 5 times, Ohio State 5 times. Then, the following team you're only going to play 2 times, all the rest of the Big Ten. Penn State, UCLA, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Iowa, Purdue, Minnesota, Maryland, Rutgers, and Illinois. But how about this? Ohio State only has to play USC. So Michigan's got Oregon, USC, and Washington 3 times each, right? So 3 of the 4 teams coming over, big-time programs. Michigan has to play them 3 out of 5 years. Ohio State only has to play 1 of them. And it's the weakest one, right? I'm sorry, no, they play Oregon. I apologize. They play Oregon 3 times, okay? But they only play USC, UCLA, and Washington. They only play those 2 teams, those 3 teams twice. So Oregon kind of gets the brunt of it. They play Michigan and Ohio State both 3 times in this next 5-year period. Ohio State does play Penn State 3 times in that time period. So, I don't know. I think Michigan, Penn State has been sacrificed quite a bit. The Wolverines and the Nittany Lions only play 3 of the next 5 seasons, which I think is, I guess, okay. We alluded to it on Tuesday's show, but you're losing a little bit of the allure of that game, which has been one of the better rivalries in the Big Ten over the past 25, 30 years since Penn State came over to become a Big Ten team in 1993. So let me ask you guys this question. Do you like the new 18-team Big Ten? Rank it for me on a scale of 1 through 10. 1, you hate it. 10, you love it. I'm going like a 5 at this point. I'm not sure if, I'm not sure if I care to play Oregon more than I care to play Wisconsin or Penn State or, anything like that, or Iowa or Purdue, but that's just how it's going to be going forward. Michigan kind of getting a lot of these marquee matchups with the West Coast teams. So I'm going to go with a 4 or 5 on this one. I'm going to go 4.7. Let me know what you guys think, scale of 1 through 10. Before we talk about the Harbaugh rumors a little bit more, I'm going to walk through the 2024 schedule one more time. Fresno State, Texas, Arkansas State, Minnesota, Northwestern, Michigan State, USC, and Oregon. That is your 2024 home schedule. Before you go on the road, you got 4 road games against Illinois, Indiana, Washington, and Ohio State. That's your 2024 Michigan football schedule. Take a look at the 2025 schedule. 6 home games, 6 road games. Ohio State, Purdue, Washington, Wisconsin, New Mexico, and Central Michigan at home. On the road, you've got Oklahoma, Nebraska, Maryland, Northwestern, Michigan State, and USC. That's a damn tough road schedule. Oklahoma, USC, not to mention Michigan State, right? A rival. Not to mention, Nebraska, one of the top 10 or 12 programs in the history of college football. Northwestern, Michigan State, Maryland. That is quite the doozy. So about Jim Harbaugh. We've been saying for months, right? They're supposed to try and get a deal done, last spring, etc. This NCAA issue that seemingly has been resolved on Michigan's end. They put a 3-game, suspension in front of Jim Harbaugh. Not sure if he agreed with it or not. There's been speculations both ways. But the word on the streets right now is that Jim Harbaugh himself is pushing for a new long-term contract that should hopefully end the constant speculation that's already started with him looking to the NFL after the last 2 seasons and going forward. I mean, these disaster franchises, the Chicago Bears, the Raiders, their pundits and media members are already speculating that Jim Harbaugh is going to be the next head coach. The New York Giants, maybe, all these people. But Jim Harbaugh seems like he wants to get a deal done, right? And I don't blame him because he is now the 12th highest paid coach in college football behind Ryan Day, behind Mel Tucker, he's still in the books for this year, behind James Franklin, and frankly, Jim Harbaugh should be up there with the Dabo Sweeneys of the world, with the Nick Sabans, with the Kirby Smarts. So I'm going to ask you guys this question. Will Jim Harbaugh be Michigan's head coach in 2024? Give me a comment of yes or no down below. Let me know what you guys are thinking. What's the vibe you've got out there? I'm not sure at this point. I'm going to say maybe, because I'm not even sure even if Harbaugh signs a long-term contract, if the NFL job he wants comes along, money could be no object. There's always some sort of out clause in these contracts. But what about Warde Manuel? What is the tension between these guys? Is it still stemming from Manuel not firing Harbaugh after the disastrous 2020 season, 2-4, but asking him to take like a 50% pay cut that he earned back with incentives in 2021, winning the Big Ten, beating Ohio State, going to the college football playoff, ended up making north of $9 million that year. Joel Klatt was on the herd yesterday, and he said this. He said, the dynamic with him being Harbaugh and leadership at Michigan is interesting. I believe that there's some tension, and it's the reason why President Santa Ono had to jump in and do the new contract, which still is not done. I just know that there is some tension. So a lot of conversation over the last 24 plus hours from the local media, from the national media on this Jim Harbaugh deal, and the only little inside nugget I've got so far right now was told Harbaugh wants to get a deal done, and he wants it done this month, the month of October. Doesn't want any distractions once you get into November. Ohio State game, Penn State game, fighting for a Big Ten championship, and then on to Pasadena likely, and then Houston in January for Michigan's 15th game and ideally a 2023 national championship. Guys, we'll have a video for you out on Friday, and I'm going to put one out on Saturday morning so you can kind of simmer around some Michigan football report as we're waiting for that 7:30 kickoff against Minnesota. We just brought you the Michigan football schedule 2024 through 2028 and the latest on the Jim Harbaugh rumors, so make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Until I see you guys tomorrow, go Blue.